Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
So let's bring in our VIP guest. And that, of course, is Brianna Lyman. She has been on the show before. You see her all over Fox News and CNN, one of those rare people that goes on both networks, raising her visibility and her brand, as they call it. Brianna, how are you?
Thanks for having me, Joe. And don't make us jealous with the Florida vacation.
It's the thing I do. I go away. I post 18 pictures onto every social media account that I have.
I'm going to block you for a few days.
I don't blame you. It's crazy. It could be worse, though. We could be in Minneapolis, of course. Let's go there first. Then I want to talk to you about the SAVE Act and obviously blowing up the filibuster. But as far as Trump dialing it down there a bit, right? So he's still going to have 75% of the ICE agents that were there before. I think it's a slight de-escalation in a way to cool things down. Maybe some of the right say, hey, you shouldn't acquiesce in any way, shape, or form. But as long as the job is getting done, I think that's the important thing here. Or where do you come down on this?
Yeah, and I think Operation Metro Surge had the stated goal of going in there with, more agents than maybe other operations, precisely because the counties were not complying with the detainers. But Tom Homan seemed to allude to the fact that more counties are complying. So I think that could partially explain the reduction in forces. That said, I think that the Trump administration needs to do a little bit of a better job on messaging, because there are a lot of, MAGA and conservatives who said, look, you promised us mass deportations with no caveats. It wasn't mass deportations just for murderers and rapists. It was mass deportations for anyone who violated our sovereignty. And it does seem like some of the messaging we're receiving indicates that maybe there's going to be a change in deportation policy. So I'd like to see some clarification, I think, from President Trump himself, not just from J.D. Vance, and a reminder to Republicans that you elected Donald Trump. He's going to get the job done. And this is why you should also go out and vote for Republicans in the midterm to continue the work.
And we're talking to Brianna Lyman. That's the thing, right? When you look at the polls that are out now, New York Times, 55% of voters, we're talking Democrats, Republicans, Independents, believe that all immigrants who are here illegally should be deported. Marquette, that's 64%, CBS News, 57%, ABC News, 56%. So the numbers are still there. I think there was this misconception that what was going on in Minneapolis was indicative of how people were feeling about deportation efforts across the country. No, I think Minneapolis lives in a bubble created by Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, as far as the rhetoric against ICE, and then all the wine moms and all the paid agitators shipped in from out of town, making it seem like this is the sort of chaos that we're going to see across the country. And we simply are not seeing it in other cities and other states to this point. So, yeah, you could say that Trump is winning, and on polling, he's winning. So maybe that's why he's been on the offensive so much, doing a full, long interview with NBC News. Also, J.D. Vance going on Megyn Kelly's podcast. So, yeah, it's an election year. And I say if you're the Trump administration, it's very simple. Push all the things that are infinitely better now than they were under the auto pen, which was obviously we have higher wages. We have inflation core around 2.5%. It was above 9 under Biden. We have a closed border. Obviously, no one even talks about it anymore. They solved the problem so fast. Obviously, the deportation's going on as well. Iran doesn't have any nuclear capabilities at this point. We have relative peace in Gaza. I could go down the list in terms of all the things that are going well in this country from an economic perspective, from a foreign policy perspective. And if the Trump administration, the minute you play defense is the minute you lose. So Democrats have to say more than just, hey, we're here to save democracy and Donald Trump is Hitler. Like, that is so old. It's not resonating with the American people anymore, Brianna, certainly. And I want to move here to as far as Scott Bessent, who I think is the MVP of this administration. I have big kudos for Marco Rubio, of course, and JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, a lot of different people within this administration, RFK Jr. But yeah, Bessent, at least in media appearances and when he appears on Capitol Hill, is just the funniest stuff ever. So let me play this for you, and I'll get your reaction. I want to hear who your MVP is of the Trump administration. This is cut number 2. Go.
I have people in my district that are in rental houses that I wouldn't rent to anybody. They're not expensive. They're probably $500 or $600 a month. You think people that can barely afford housing like that's the housing that we're talking about when we talk about the housing crisis?
D properties push up the price of C properties. Inflation in C properties pushes up the price of A properties. Inflation in the price of A property. B properties pushes up A properties. So it moves up the stack. And if you think that somehow the laws of supply and demand do not apply to housing, I would say you're incorrect. We're incorrect.
I mean, that's just perfect, right? Just lays it out almost like a computer. Is Bessent your MVP at this point, Brianna, or are you more in the Marco camp, or am I not naming somebody that I'm missing?
I think Bessent's definitely my top 3, although I definitely put Stephen Miller, I think, in the number 1 spot, because not only is his policy, I think, aligned with conservatives, but also he does a great job. With Jake Tapper on CNN, you've seen plenty of instances where he has to walk them through step by step something really basic. To Scott Bessent's point, I think it's really funny that you're seeing all of these people who are pretending on the left to know what they're talking about and then talk at like a different cross point. And that's why there's no real progress being made at all, because they just don't know what they're talking about. And they keep relying on this Cato study that came out this week saying apparently, illegal and legal immigrants actually are amazing for the economy and they do better than native born Americans. And they don't drive housing costs up, not at all, of course. And it all ignores the fact that we have 20 million new people here in 4 years. They have to live somewhere. You don't see 20 million people on the street, thank God, of course. So where are they? They're in housing. And if they're in that housing, then you know who's not in that housing? Americans. So it's like a basic economic model that they just can't seem to fathom because they don't want to acknowledge that, their open border policies does have really bad impacts on native born Americans.
And we're talking to Brianna Lyman. She, of course, is the host of Countdown to Freedom at the Federalist and also a great writer as well. Check out Brianna at Brianna Lyman. That's with a Y, MAN2. And we follow each other apparently on the Twitter. So those followers are really piling up there, Brianna. Keep doing those TV appearances and radio shows like this. We appreciate having you. This is what Democrats have been reduced to now as far as what is their whole, strategy here. Here is Rashida Tlaib just this week on the House floor, blowing whistles as if ICE is in the building or something. Cut number 18, go.
That's what the American people are doing right now in the streets of America. That's what they're using to protect themselves. Whistles and their cameras. That's what they're doing against a fascist army.
I'm thinking there's a little hyperbole there, Brianna. Is this going to work as far as going down this road again, the fascism road that they tried with Donald Trump so many times, and then he works at a McDonald's, and all I know is Hitler probably didn't work at McDonald's during his time as the Fuhrer. This whole characterization of a guy that the American people know at this point. You have a definitive opinion on Donald Trump. I just don't see this working very well. It's all about performance, isn't it?
You know what's so funny is that she said this is how the people in the streets of America are feeling. If Democrats believe that the people in Minneapolis are representative of America as a whole, that's exactly why they lost so big in 2024, because they catered all of their policies toward a small subset of 500 angry Karens who are so far left, even more far left than the average, Democrat. And that's what Democrats think represents the entire country. So I think it just goes to show you how out of touch they are, which is a good thing for Republicans this November, because it means that Democrats still don't have, any real messaging to run on. The bad thing is if Republicans don't get their messaging right, Democrats simply saying, Donald Trump is bad, people are upset, may actually be enough to drag some of them across the finish line in tight races.
Especially, Brianna, when we're talking about such a small margin of error here. It's not like Republicans have a 30-seat advantage in the House, right? It's literally one at this point, because Thomas Massie might as well be part of the squad. I know he's a conservative. I get that he has a certain philosophy, but he votes against the president every time, so you can't count on him. But yeah, you're right about that. They won't need a lot. They don't need an A+ midterm. They don't even need a B+. As long as they get like a B-, C+, when you only need to like capture 2 or 3 seats to make it House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, the bar is definitely low. And we're talking to Brianna Lyman. Speaking of no messaging from the Democrat side, Representative, he meant to say, definitely not a Republican, Jamie Raskin, saying now President Trump has one objective, and that is to steal the election because he supports voter ID, something that 85% of Americans, including a solid majority of black voters and even Democrats, support. But Raskin, hey, he runs to MS Now anyway to talk to Lawrence O'Donnell, to use the usual, again, hyperbole is the only word that comes to mind. Cut number 4, go.
We have to defend those elections because Donald Trump, who obviously has no other program for America relating to health care, relating to housing for young people, relating to any public good, has one objective in mind, which is trying to steal the election.
Steal the election through voter ID. So I cited those stats before. I mean, this is more of an 80-20 issue than men playing against women in sports. Like, it's like 85% of Americans say that if you want to vote, it's going to be the same thing you do when you get on a plane. You got to show your ID to show you are who you are. And this way it takes away any ambiguity around elections, which every election, whether you're Republican or Democrat, remember, Democrats back in 2016 said that the Russians hacked voting machines to hand the election to Donald Trump. At that time, obviously, we know what happened in 2020 as far as the Trump objections and from all of his supporters, and maybe rightly so. So, yeah, that's where we are at this point, where Democrats are taking the 15 side of an 85-15 side. Does this pass ultimately, Brianna, and should Republicans blow up the filibuster and then therefore make it pass with a simple majority as opposed to a 60-vote threshold in the Senate? Where do you come down on this?
Yeah, I'm usually not one to say that we should get rid of the filibuster, but I think given that Chuck Schumer, for example, has said that when Democrats get in power, nothing is off the table, including eliminating the filibuster, it would be naive for Republicans to assume that if Democrats take back power, they will not use any means of their disposal to get to their ends, which could include getting rid of the filibuster. And we're not just talking about blowing up the filibuster for something like a 50-50 issue. This is an 80-20 issue. And what the SAVE Act, which is so necessary, does, aside from voter ID, it requires documentary proof of citizenship to register to vote. Do you know the only thing standing between a non-citizen and our free and fair elections is a literal tiny little square box on a federal voter registration form that says that you attest under penalty of perjury you're telling the truth. It is the honor system. And yet Democrats say that trying to give teeth to a relatively toothless law is problematic. Most voters don't believe that. The whole lie that this is Jim Crow 2.0, they told us about that in Georgia in 2021. They said the voter ID is Jim Crow 2.0. Washington Post, CNN literally reported that there was a higher than ever turnout after that law was passed. In fact, black voters told CNN, I just put this on my Twitter, that it was actually easy this time to vote after the voter ID came into place than beforehand. So none of their fear-mongering even holds up to scrutiny.
Yeah, Brianna, they really have to come up with something better than Jim Crow 2.0. That was the Biden line. Nobody bought it. As you said, in places like Georgia where they passed common sense voting laws, the voting numbers have gone through the roof since, and no one is running to CNN or MS Now talking about how they were disenfranchised or weren't able to vote. Anyway, she is a proud American. She is Brianna Lyman. She is the host of Countdown to Freedom at the Federalist. Brianna, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your patience. That's an inside joke, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Joe.
All right. And say hi to your dog, by the way. So what kind of dog is that, by the way?
A Rottweiler, 160 pounds.
You are probably 104, so I don't know how you walk that dog.
I'm about $120.
$120, okay. Oh, you and my wife should get together. She's exactly
she
$120
walks
as well.
me.
But either way, a 160-pound dog. I could barely walk a 20-pound dog, believe me, a Westie and a Labradoodle. But anyway, I will leave it there. Thanks again for joining us. And what's his name, by the way, the dog?
Tundra, and thanks for having me.
Hunter. That's a very interesting name.
Tundra, after my dad's pickup truck.
Oh, Tundra. Okay. You want to name your kid Hunter or Brandon at this point, or your dog. So I'll leave it there. Okay. I'm going to leave you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Brianna. Take care.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.